Lupus LA would like to thank our generous sponsors for their support of the Your Story, Our Fight podcast. Gemini Beauty believes in beauty for a cause, and in their case, the cause is lupus. The team at Gemini is changing the skincare game for good. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lupus LA podcast, Your Story, Our Fight. I'm your host, Adam Selkowitz, and I want to thank our sponsors for allowing us to tell such inspirational lupus stories. Today, we have Lupus In Color. And I say that because that is Racquel Dozier's handle on Instagram and Facebook and everywhere her influencing is and how important that is to the lupus community. And so I am really honored to have you here to tell your story, Racquel.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I know you're a former track and basketball college Olympic trial athlete. And so tell me a little bit about your lupus story and sort of this incredible life you were leading and how your lupus came to be.
Well, where should I start? I guess I should start at the beginning, right?
Let's start at the beginning. Let's start in Brooklyn because I know you're from Brooklyn.
I was born, so no, let me stop. I was moving from New York to Virginia, and it seems like everything happens for a reason. Had we not been moving from New York to Virginia, my husband would have perished in the Twin Towers. So that's the first sign that we are supposed to be where we are in life today.
For sure.
So in 2001, we moved. And in 2002, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I was working as a social worker and just kind of had some issues outstanding my hands and my arms and my feet. I could barely walk.
Let me go back though. I want to go back a little bit. Tell me the kind of childhood you had in terms of, I want to go back to this, your athleticism.
Okay, okay.
I always like to show how lupus changes somebody's life. And not only that, but how what you learned as a former athlete, how that's helped you in your lupus. So I want to tell our audience a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about where you were before your diagnosis or even your symptoms started.
Right. I was born in Brooklyn, so I'm a Brooklyn girl at heart. Born and raised, lost my parents at a very young age, made it a difficult life from the beginning. So I've been fighting since the beginning. Many years ago, right before my mother passed, she put me into track. So I was about 5 or 6 years old when I started running track. And that kind of got me on the ball of, this is what I want to do in my life type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Once my mother passed away, I, went through different foster homes and finally got into a family that were my family from the beginning. It was my aunt and my uncle, and they kind of raised me from there. And during that time, it was still kind of difficult because I was trying to navigate a life without parents and just trying to deal with life as it was given to me, and continued in track and basketball through elementary school, through junior high school. I don't know how you guys call it in LA or, middle school.
It's the same. It's the same. Yeah.
High school and through high school. And I found that it was a passion of mine to really just continue running because it was an outlet. It created these endorphins in me that made me forget about the things that were going on in my life. So I continued with the whole track and still going to school, still having, that rough life as a teenager because, coming from foster care and just being a teenager. But that track and basketball and any type of sport that I can get into really kept me on track. If you want to say it that way.
Yep. I like that.
It kept me on track. It kept me in school, even though I had some issues in and out of different homes. So it kept me on track, and it put me in a position where I was able to run with some of the greatest. I was able to run to the point where I was making Olympic trials. And course, I couldn't go because the money wasn't there or whatever the case may be. But these were things that helped me be who I was today. Having coaches that would coach me to a point where they would teach me how to meditate in order to deal with pains when I was hurt. Little things like that kind of shaped me who I am today. And it helped me
Hmm.
to be the person I am. So I know people think that your parents put you in these track things or all these athletic things for no reason. But the real reason is to teach you that discipline and teach you exactly what you need to know, even for life, to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing and making sure that you are just very in tune with number one, your body, number two, your mind. So that's my little story. By the time I got
Yeah. No, I just dropped my daughter off at gymnastics
uh-huh.
not 15 minutes ago. And for that exact, I was a gymnast when I was a kid, and it's all about, I think, trying to teach that discipline and that resilience, I think, is really another
Absolutely. And
important part.
hindsight is 2020. When I look back at why my mother put me in there, it really was for that reason, that discipline reason, to really allow me to learn how to deal with life on a whole nother level. Now, I don't know if she knew this
Hmm.
in the past. At the time, she was very ill, but the reality is that she kept me in there and she pushed me to do it. And I'm happy she did because it took me to so many different levels, as far
Hmm.
as going to nationals and things like that, and just working really hard to get what I wanted.
Gives you a goal too. I think it teaches goals too. That's really important.
Absolutely.
And so as we go sort of more into your lupus story, you get this RA diagnosis right after you moved to Virginia. What were you doing at that time? You were social worker. You were counseling
Yeah, I was a
children, I think,
Yeah,
right?
I was a foster care social worker, go figure,
Right.
for, older children, independent living, and I was working hard. I was working hard. Prior to even moving to New York, I was a drug counselor in New York, and
Hmm.
when you look back, I can tell you certain places where lupus started,
Hmm.
and when right before I left New York, my doctor was like, "You need to stop working in this field because if you don't, it's going to kill you." I didn't listen. I came to Virginia and continued with the social working and continued working hard, until my body just couldn't do it any longer.
And so when you got the diagnosis, did that sort of make sense to you? Like, okay, this no.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I thought when I first got to Virginia, I thought, this slow pace is what did it to me. I got sick because I've stopped moving. And you know what? In some sense, I feel like the slower pace that I had in Virginia kind of precipitated my body to rest and for me to see what was going on. But I can
Hmm.
remember as far back as maybe 10 or 11 where I would get hives when I was outside, especially in high school when I was running. I would get hives being in the sun. I would get
Hmm.
extremely fatigued. I would have different bug bites on me that would turn into these massive issues that I would have to be hospitalized for. So I guess hindsight is 2020. I probably had lupus all my life.
Hmm. Yeah. So when you got the RA diagnosis, did you change careers or no? You kept going.
I kept going until my body stopped me. Once my body stopped me, I stopped. Of course, I had no choice but to stop working. And when my body stopped me, that is when lupus reared its ugly head.
Hmm.
Because I was very sick one day and I couldn't even walk. I literally had to crawl from my bathroom floor to my living room to really get to a phone just to call 911. My stomach was protruded out. And when I got to the hospital, they said that I had ascites, which is the swelling of your intestines. And I had 4 liters of liquid in my belly. And that is when I got the firm diagnosis for lupus. Now, when I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, my doctor did say, look, this could be lupus. And at the time, I was like, what is that? I heard of a girl in college that passed away from lupus, but I didn't really know what it was. And I was fortunate enough to have a doctor to say, yeah, this is what lupus is, A, B, C, and D. Let me give you a lady's number and you can contact her and get more information about it. So when I got the firm diagnosis of lupus with ascites, I was almost prepared for it. I just wasn't prepared for the change of life because after moving from New York, I was moving. I had a 3-year-old son. I was rushing from one job to another job, leaving at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting home at 3 o'clock in the morning. So it was, it was constant. It was constant moving. And when I got here, it was just difficult to stop when your body told you to.
Right. No, for sure. We're going to take a quick break and then we're going to come back and talk about the lupus, post-lupus diagnosis world and what life is like now. So we'll be right back after we take this break.
Lupus LA's Facebook Live Chat series connects leading lupus and health experts with our community to answer the most current and important questions. For more information, visit lupusla.org.
Welcome back to the Lupus LA podcast, Your Story, Our Fight. I'm your host, Adam Selkowitz, and we are continuing our conversation with Racquel Dozier. So we got to the lupus diagnosis, and you said something very interesting before the break. You said your life, that's when everything changed. Yep. And so tell me a little bit about, first of all, what goes through your mind in terms of, was it a conscious decision? Okay, now I have to make all these adjustments, or did they just kind of happen naturally?
I think it was a combination of both, honestly. My body forced me to stop. So once I was hospitalized and pretty much near death, 4 liters of liquid in your belly, I probably should have been gone at that point. I didn't have a choice but to stop. Once I started to not even heal, because we were still trying to figure out, okay, is this really lupus or what's going on? But once I started getting treatment for it, that's when I realized, like, wow, this is going to be my life, like, forever. And the doctor was like, yeah, you're going to have to take these pills forever. Now, you coming from someone who has been an athlete all of her life, and I've run since I can remember. For him to tell me that I'm not able to do those things, at least in the moment, I was like, I'm devastated. This is ridiculous. Then he was like, well, I know you're only 30-something years old, but you're going to have to stop working too. So you're taking away it all. So now all of it has changed. I can't do any workouts. I can't do things with my son who is young. I can't go out. I can't do anything. And that was just a blow. I think it was more of a blow to my ego, if anything, because I just knew that this couldn't be my life. But once I sat down with the doctor and we finally got a treatment that worked for me at that time for the moment, that's when I realized, like, okay, I can't sit around worried about what these drugs are going to do to me or if I'm ever going to be able to do anything. I have to do what I can in the time that I have. Because I was like, doc, is this something that's going to kill me? He was like, well, we're all going to die, number one. But, if we treat this, you can live a normal life. But don't get caught up on the treatment, because I was really getting caught up on what are the side effects of all of this medication, because I didn't have to do all that before. And he said, don't get caught up on that. Get caught up on getting well. And when he said that to me, and when my husband kind of like pushed, what are you doing? You used to run, you pulled like ligaments. This is nothing for you. You can do this. With the push of, my family and just my mindset, I had to really just almost instantly change my mindset to say, okay, I know that I'm sick, even though I didn't really believe it.
Mhm.
I know that I'm sick. So now I have to change the way I think about who I am. And in that moment of him telling me, just do what you got to do, it kind of like switched on. Okay, doc, you said I have lupus. What do I have to do to take care of it?
And what goes through your mind? I'm just sort of thinking back to your childhood, and you said your mom was sick before she passed, and you have at this time, I don't know how old your son was, but young. Um, how does that impact your thinking in terms of thinking back to your childhood? I'm sure that was really tough.
You know what? My mother almost had me in the toilet. That's just, it's just been a life. I was a 7-month baby. I think I've just been a fighter all my life, and I think when this all happened with me, with the rheumatoid arthritis, the lupus, and then later on type 2 diabetes, um, I think it just brought out the fight in me more. I I I don't even think that I was so much why me for a long period of time. Once I said why me, I was like, okay, now you're in a pity party. So I had to really take what I've learned from birth, you know, and I've been fighting for my life, all my life. And I just had to get in that fight mode again. And once I got in that fight mode, oh, it was over. It was over. I didn't, I've been running and pulled 2 hamstrings and
Mm,
still tried to crawl to the finish line. So I'm looking at it as like a track meet. And I'm just
yeah,
in this race and I'm just gonna finish it until the wheels fall off. So
yeah.
I just had to change. I didn't really have to change. I had to dig deep and go.
You had to make that connection,
Yeah, go
right? You
back
had
to
to
that
say, okay,
connection.
wait a minute, I get it. I know what this is. I
Yep,
can recognize this is just another race. I got to
yep,
figure out how to win it.
yep. When
How much did your husband and your son impact how you took care of yourself?
Oh, a whole lot. A whole lot. I'm blessed to have a supportive husband, and my child grew up with me having lupus. He was 3 when I got lupus. And he's kind of he's kind of pushed me to be the mother I am because he wouldn't let me sit for long. And if I had to sit, he would have been there for me. And it's still like that. He's 26 now, but he's still like that, even though he has his own autoimmune disease that he has to deal with. It's almost like in my life, I've been taught to deal with this situation all my life. Like I told you, my mom was very ill from whenever I can remember. She died when I was 9. So
Was that autoimmune also?
COPD.
Hmm.
So, you know, watching her deal with her issues, then, I have a sister that dealt with some health issues as well. And I'm dealing with some health issues. It's like I've been set up to be a winner beyond it all. I've been set up to overcome it without a doubt because of what I've been through. And that makes a difference in how you handle things. It makes a difference in how you look at life. It makes a difference as how you take what doctors say to you. And it makes a difference in how you live day to day. Dealing with my own illness, when my son got type 1 diabetes at 12, we were able to help each other at that point. And even now, even though of course, I'm an empty nester now, he's out of the house, we're still that support system. And my husband, you can forget about being down around that man because he is the funniest man alive. And no matter if I'm in the hospital, no matter if I'm just out of it, he is going to make you laugh and he is going to make you realize how important your life is on this earth.
Hmm. And I mean, I can just imagine, I know type 1 diabetes is so all consuming for a family.
Yeah.
You probably really had to shift your focus, which sometimes probably helps your lupus in the sense that
Yeah.
you're not paying as much attention.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, that's type 1 diabetes as a parent is a full-time job.
Yeah. It definitely is. It was a fight for both of us, you know, and it continues to be a fight for both of us because, like I said, even though he's out of the house, it's still a thing of, Mom, do I need to do this or do I need to do that? And it does take my focus off of me, but then he'll bring it back to me. No, but how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Are you taking care of yourself? And then when I got type 2 diabetes from, I guess, from the medicine, from the prednisone or whatever have you, it was just like, oh, Mom, no, this is what you need to do, A, B, C, and D. So it became almost like he became parentified and started to be the dad, so to speak, you know? So it was hard, but it was surely worth it. I think that he learned, just like I learned when my mother was sick, how to handle it. And it helped him to deal with his own issues.
Sure. So tell me, what made you want to go public with your illness, and tell me a little bit about how you got into being an influencer in the space.
So when I was diagnosed, I was in Virginia and I didn't see anybody like me. Virginia is Virginia. I didn't see any Black women. Every meeting that I went to that my doctor, you know, said that I should go to, everybody was an old white woman. And I was like, I can't relate to them. I can't relate to them, even though they're telling me what happens with them. It's not happening with me, or it's happening different with me. So when I noticed that, I said to myself, I've got to change the space that I'm in. When you're the only person in the room of your persuasion, it's hard to handle. It's hard to relate. So at that point, I just was like, I need to create a space for Black women who are dealing with lupus and don't know what to do. And that's how Lupus in Color started. From that point, though, it wasn't just a Black woman thing. It became more of an international, every woman, every man, every boy, every girl thing that I would have never thought would have happened from just that point of me saying, you know, out of necessity, I need to get some creativity up in here. And I need to make something that not only can help me, but can help others.
And I assume your background as a social worker and was really, you know, again, all these things that you experienced earlier in life are the building blocks for what you've created now. So tell me a little bit about Lupus in Color and what you do and how it all has come together.
Okay. So Lupus in Color is, like I stated, I started it because it's what I needed. And since then, it has come to a point of educating, inspiring, encouraging, and empowering lupus warriors all around the world. And I say that very loosely because it's become such a greater advocacy work than I would have imagined it to be. And that's just from one little group that I started locally and then, you know, spanned out to the internet. So we help people learn how to cope with lupus day to day. And I love the bigger organizations that are able to do the large fundraisers and, you know, look for a cure. That's not my goal. My goal is to teach people every single day how to cope with lupus so that they can live better and live healthier beyond it. So the purpose of Lupus in Color is to really just teach people to cope better with lupus day to day and to pass that on to someone that they know that has lupus. Because the hardest thing with lupus for me is to go through day to day not knowing what's going to happen, that unpredictability. And if I can put in some skills in there, like a drill that I would have for basketball or a drill that I would have for track, then I can set up a plan, a goal to live better beyond the issues that come about. So that's really what Lupus in Color is about. Just kind of really teaching and helping people learn how to cope day to day.
I think it's so well said. And I think, I've obviously spoken to tons of lupus influencers, but that, I think in some ways they all have similar missions, but you articulated it so well. That to me it's so important, the work that you're doing. So what's next for you? Where do you want to take Lupus in Color? Where, what's on the agenda?
What's on the agenda? That's a good question. I think my biggest goal is to get a building where we can have something called like a Butterflies of Hope building, where lupus warriors can come and get information, get health care, and things of that nature. That's a massive goal that hopefully will come to fruition one day. If not, I'm happy with having like a wellness center, whether it be online or in person, where lupus warriors can come and work out, get healthy food, get healthy nutrition ideas, maybe speak to a doctor if they don't have the money or the insurance to do so that they can just live better. There are some people that contact me that don't have money for medicine. I'd love to help everybody. I can't, but I do what I can with what I have. And I want other lupus warriors to be able to do that with what I give them.
What's the feedback you get from, give me an example of somebody you've touched and how that's made a difference?
I'll tell you this. We are going through something for the next 8 weeks called the Soulmates Defeating Lupus Marathon. My goal, since I've had lupus, was to actually run a marathon or walk a marathon in one sitting, one walk.
Right.
I know that with my body and the way it is right now, and I'm getting up there in age, so I know it might not be a possibility. I came up with something that said that we're going to do a marathon in 8 weeks. And in 8 weeks, you're going to run or walk 3.3 miles every week. So you're walking a 5K every week for 8 weeks. And that's going to give us our 26.2 miles. And just the other day, I had a woman contact me and she said, I have not walked in years. And all I do is go to work and come home, take care of my kids, go to work and come home. And she said, but when you put it the way that you put it in such simple terms, it has sparked me to get up and walk again. And that touched my heart because I'm big on movement and I'm big on getting those endorphins in your body so that you can have your own personal high. So when she said that, it really touched my heart because it's a simple act that people don't realize can have very big results. And for her to say that it inspired her to get up and move again. And she's been doing it for the past 2 weeks. I can't do anything but smile because if I touch one, I'm good. If I touch more than one, then I'm great.
That's amazing. I love that you brought it all back to this running metaphor. and it's not even a metaphor, it's an actual running task.
Yeah.
I think it's perfect. I love breaking up the marathon over 8 weeks. I think that's terrific. You're amazing. Lupus in Color, you can find on all the social platforms. Racquel, thank you so much for joining the podcast and being a part of our family now, because now you're stuck.
That's great.
And I wish you all the best. And one day I want to meet your husband and hear how funny he is.
Oh my gosh. You would be amazed at what that man can make you laugh at. He's amazing.
Excellent. Well, I'm a big believer in laughing through lupus for sure. So I'm glad he's a part of your life for that. So thanks so much, Racquel. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
On behalf of the entire team at Lupus LA, we thank you for joining the Your Story, Our Fight podcast. Please tune in, spread the word, and come back for more inspiring lupus stories. I'm your host, Adam Selkowitz, wishing you good health, and to always remember, your story is our fight.